I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, a decision about the mayor. San Diego City Council getting ready to meet behind closed doors to vote on a deal that likely includes the resignation of Mayor Bob Filner.
San Diegans woke up this morning thinking a deal with Mayor Filner might be imminent, but so much changes in a day. We'll analyze where we're at in this complicated debacle.
And the attorney for the city workers suing the mayor for sexual harassment says she's been left out of any deal they're looking at, urging city council to think twice before signing off on any agreement using public funds. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We learned late last night about a deal that likely involves the resignation of Mayor Bob Filner. The City Council will vote on the tentative agreement in a special closed-door session tomorrow afternoon. It was hammered out during 3 days of mediation, but attorney Gloria Allred says it does not include settlement of a sexual harassment lawsuit filed against the mayor and city. KPBS Metro reporter Sandia Dirks has been following the story and joins us from the News Center. So what is the latest from Allred?
Well, lawyer Gloria Allred held another press conference today, this one in Los Angeles, and by her side was the mayor's former fiancé, Bronwyn Ingram. But this time, she wasn't bringing forward a new accuser. She was warning San Diegans that the deal that might be approved by City Council tomorrow could be, in her opinion, no better than a bribe. She says forcing taxpayers to foot the bill for the mayor's alleged bad acts would be morally bankrupt.
We do not know the details of the reported deal, and we have not approved it. We are therefore concerned that the City Council may be voting on this deal in a vacuum, and that it may contain terms which we and the taxpayers would find abhorrent.
Now, it sounds like Allred is opposed to the deal.
Yes, if the deal is in fact pay to go away. But she fully admits she doesn't know what the deal is. She started out this week as part of the mediation proceedings in the room with the mayor and the city attorney and council members. But now she says she is in the dark like the rest of us. And like the rest of us, she's speculating about what the deal might contain. She says if the settlement was just the mayor's resignation, it wouldn't take a special city council session. So she is suggesting that there might be a buyout of sorts here.
So where does that leave the lawsuit pending against the mayor and city?
That is still very much on. The lawsuit that Allred and her client, the mayor's former communications director, Irene McCormick Jackson, have filed against the city and the mayor is still in play. The mediation and the proposed deal don't change that. As to what it means for the mayor, we'll have to wait until the special session of the City Council tomorrow at 1 p.m. to find out.
KPBS Metro reporter Sandia Dirks. San Diego Congresswoman Susan Davis weighed in on the issue when asked whether she would support a city council deal involving taxpayer money. She had this to say.
Well, I think we have to see the reasons that they made those decisions, and I also think it's important for the city to move on. And it might be part of the negotiation. Right now, that would be, I think, more desirable to a recall.
Congresswoman Davis was in town to discuss sequestration. Allison St. John is in for Peggy Pico tonight with more on the potential deal struck with the city and mayor.
When we discover the exact terms of the deal that was reached between the mayor and the city, we'll begin to get a sense of what the scandals surrounding the mayor could cost the city, both financially and emotionally. But tomorrow's city council vote is now complicated by calls from attorney Gloria Allred on the council not to pay a penny of the mayor's legal fees. We have political scientist Carl Luna of Mesa College with us and social scientist Tom Reifer of USD. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So just to kick us off, we're going to look at the clip of Jan Goldsmith, city attorney, who held a news conference last night explaining to the city of San Diego what the deal is that he has hammered out between the city and the mayor's attorneys. Here it is.
We have reached a proposed resolution. It will be presented to the City Council at a closed session council meeting on Friday at 1 p.m. at City Hall. Immediately thereafter at the closed session, we may have a report out at a public council meeting at the same location. The City Council has not heard of this proposal, and our process at City Hall, as well as the mediation process, requires that we maintain the confidentiality of the proposal until they have heard of it. This is the process we follow. Any rumors you hear about the proposal, you may deem to be untrue.
Okay, so as an informed observer, we can really only speculate until tomorrow because we don't know the details of the deal. But what are the elements of this deal, Carl?
I have no idea. We've fallen through the looking glass here. We had a mediation this week with 3 parties, except one of the parties now say they weren't really part of the mediation, so the other 2 parties came up with some deal. One would presume that the deal the mayor was looking for was some degree of personal indemnification from lawsuit and damages so he doesn't go bankrupt over this, and some paying of his legal fees in exchange for a resignation. Now, Ms. Allred had said that if the mayor resigns, they won't sue the city, but nothing said that they won't sue the mayor. It's really complicated, and now the city council is going to have to rule on something with the public complaining about it before anybody even knows what the substance of the deal is.
And what's interesting is at that press conference that we just watched, we saw a bunch of attorneys, but none of those attorneys were Gloria Allred's attorneys, or Gloria herself.
It's hard to have a mediation of all parties when one of the parties isn't buying into it, and it would appear that Gloria Allred's approach today was to torpedo this whole deal.
Okay, so now let's just watch and see Gloria, what she had to say this afternoon.
The majority of San Diegans agree that the mayor must go. However, his leaving the city should not leave a permanent stain on the city's reputation by the city council's facilitating the mayor's leaving by entering into a callous and unholy agreement with him. If the deal requires that the city council pay him $1, then I, for one, think that they should vote against it. There should be no payoff for Mayor Filner. It would be a slap in the face to the mayor's many victims to see him get anything from the city of San Diego.
Okay, so now, as you said, Carl, in her initial news conference when she filed the suit, she implied that if the mayor resigned, that was what they were looking for. How does this change things now?
Again, she implied that if the mayor resigns, she wouldn't be going after the city as a legal entity. Nothing said she wouldn't go after the mayor. And if the city is protecting the mayor that way after he resigns, it kind of complicates her ability to hold him accountable. Apparently, she and her client really want the mayor to have to pay a heavy price for his alleged behaviors.
So, Tom, what do you think it is that has led Gloria Allred now to throw this spanner in the works, as it were?
Well, one, she looks like everybody assumed she was part of the mediation, and if she was only part of the first part of the mediation. So now we're in a very complicated situation here because it's easy for her to say what she said, and a lot of people undoubtedly sympathize with it. But in the meantime, people of the city of San Diego are effectively being held hostage. So even though, yes, I think that Mayor Filner should resign, but this thing just keeps on getting worse and worse and stranger and stranger. And right now, you know, all people who are victims and survivors of sexual abuse and all the people of San Diego are suffering the price. It's a real problem.
And Carl, how does this affect what the City Council has to do tomorrow? How difficult does this make their decision?
Well, by having the press conference today, Gloria Allred has now made this an issue for the next 24 hours, such that when the City Council goes into session, they're going to have public comment, and there's going to be a bunch of people with flaming torches and pitchforks saying, don't pay the mayor anything. It may not be the most rational course, but in a city where people don't like to see the city spend money on things you need, like a new city hall, to actually pay for the mayor's legal expenses, there's going to be a lot of twittering and a lot of emailing and negative comments about this.
So it implies that the deal probably did include an agreement to indemnify the mayor against any legal costs, and that now this is very controversial. That's
what Gloria Allred put on the table, and that's what people will be talking about for the next 24 hours. And I don't know if the City Council is going to be up to the pressure this is going to bring to bear on them.
And in a sense, what we saw this afternoon was Gloria Allred pursuing her own interests, and the same with Bronwyn Ingram, the mayor's former fiancé. What do you think her role is in all this?
Well, I think it's complicated for everybody because you have a lot of people pursuing their own interests. That doesn't mean that they don't have a vision of what they're doing, but you have people that are negotiating deals that may be running for mayor if Filner resigns. So I'm not saying that to cast aspersion on anybody, but one of the problems we have here is that You know, if ever we needed leadership and people sacrificing for the common good, it's now. But right now you have a situation where individual people, including victims, feel that they may be sacrificed. And so we have a real crisis here in San Diego, and it draws attention to larger issues that will have to be addressed, but we still have the immediate crisis to face. What do we do?
I think everybody thought maybe after last night's news conference that this might be the beginning of the end and the start of a new phase. But do you think, Tom, that this is really, that the city is ready for a new phase? I mean, it's been through a crisis in a way. It's been through almost like a body politic of abuse by what it's had to experience for its mayor. Is the city ready to move on even?
Even if it was resolved tomorrow, and at this point I highly doubt it, because one thing that I think we can predict is that what's going to happen is very unpredictable. So even if that happens tomorrow, this is a serious wound. And I think we're going to be dealing with this for a long time. And also I think that the likelihood that it will go on has just increased dramatically today. I mean, none of us were prepared for this. We all knew it was going to be unpredictable, but this level of unpredictability is kind of in the stratosphere.
Do you expect a large number of people to show up at City Hall tomorrow to express their points of view?
I think you better show up early because the elevator is going to be filled going up to the council chambers. I'd be surprised if you don't get a huge public backlash to this.
12th floor. Carl, what do you think about the heartbreak, basically, that this has caused to people who fought very hard for Mayor Filner in the first place and who really feel like his values are the ones they wanted to see manifesting in City Hall? Is this going to be something that is easy to move on from for his supporters?
For his supporters individually, it's going to be difficult, particularly those who have kept rallying to his defense. This is going to be something of a millstone around some of their necks for future elections, political campaigns. The simple reality is, though, the movement that created Bob Filner as mayor, the progressive movement in San Diego, is more the direction the city's been heading in terms of demographic shifts. You got a 5-4 council majority. It looks more than likely that in a special election, either Todd Gloria or you're going to end up with Nathan Fletcher, now a Democrat, winning. Within a couple of election cycles, San Diego is going to be a fairly blue town, at least in the city council. So the progressive agenda can move forward. The biggest obstacle to it right now is actually Bob Filner himself.
So tomorrow is completely unknown. We don't know whether this is going to lead to his resignation or not. If he were to resign, the next step would be an election in 90 days, right?
Not necessarily, depending on what the grounds of his resignation is. If this is part of a deal the city council just voted with, and Gloria Allred or somebody else goes to court to have that mediation voided out for whatever reason, that could be thrown up in the courts. What happens if the mayor resigns on Friday and a judge sets it aside on Monday? This is a very complicated process. But assuming there is a resignation that sticks, sometime between Halloween and Thanksgiving, we get ourselves a new mayor through special election, first round, and then runoff round.
Okay, now I hear that people were going around San Diego pulling out recall signs today, but is this the end of the recall?
You know, and the more Machiavellian side of me looks at this and says maybe this was part of the mayor's strategy too. Throw out the red herring, he's going to resign, take some of the air out of the recall movement, and now you got to restart it should this whole thing fall apart. Yeah, this is kind of like San Diego meets Game of Thrones.
And when we look at it again from parallels with an individual abuse situation, I mean, does this parallel the way that abusive relationships often end? Very messy.
People in asymmetrical situations of power taking advantage of other people, including the collateral damage of people who get in the way. There's an awful lot of that in this country, and there's an awful lot of that in the world, and that's why people are so alienated from political leadership and from institutions as a whole. The basic issues of how people are treated and treating people with fairness are the basic parts of what's going on here, despite all the complicated politics.
And you know, if we look at the amount of damage that has already been caused, I mean, how much do you feel like San Diego's credibility is damaged by all the national coverage? And now we have Gloria Allred bringing in, you know, the Hollywood aspect of it. Could we get even more damage than we have been already?
Oh, well, yes, you could. I mean, this is not America's finest city's finest hour. The fact that the city attorney and members of the city council negotiated a deal and forgot to include Gloria Allred and get her sign-off before taking it out to the public, that doesn't play well. It seems more amateur hour with all this. And the fact that you thought everybody was saying, hey, we might get a resignation, now you don't. This is the city council playing Lucy to its own Charlie Brown, pulling a football away. They shouldn't have even brought this out to the public attention unless they knew all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. They left too much up into the wind, and now it's blowing back on them.
So some people have speculated that Jan Goldsmith might have been a candidate, in fact, to step into the vacancy and run in an election if that vacancy is ever created. What do you think this, what appears to be a bit of a plan gone wrong, does to his reputation?
If this boondoggles down, it's going to hurt him, but it's also going to hurt Kevin Faulconer and Todd Gloria, two other possible candidates out there. I always thought that Kevin Faulconer was the most likely Republican candidate. He has the good base on the council and community support and all that. Jan Goldsmith is more of a supporting player in all this, but none of them will look good coming out of this if this whole deal falls apart over the weekend.
Okay, Carl Luna of Mesa College, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And Tom Reifel of USD.
Thank you very much.
And for the rest of us, let's say that we have a very good timeline of this whole debacle on our website. You can go to kpbs.org/Filner.
Federal budget cuts or sequestration took effect almost 6 months ago. Those cuts are apparently hitting San Diego hard, rallying union leaders and 2 local Democratic Congress members to speak out. KPBS reporter Claire Trageser was there and joins us with more. Claire, what did they have to say today?
Well, Congressman Scott Peters says sequestration should not be the new normal. He says the Senate and House of Representatives need to find a compromise budget so sequestration can end. Here's what he said.
Now, we all understand that we may need to make cuts in our budget. In times where things are tough, we need to eliminate wasteful spending. But the way to do that is by focusing on the mission, not making across-the-board cuts.
And Claire, how does Peters and the other leaders want to end sequestration?
Well, Congresswoman Susan Davis says the House leadership needs to make appointments to the Budget Committee so a deal can be reached. And Peters says he wants to appoint negotiators to reach a compromise between the House and Senate budgets.
And union leaders were also at this news conference today. What did they have to say about sequestration?
Richard Barrera, the head of the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council, said federal employees have lost 20% of their pay to furlough days under sequestration. That lost pay not only hurts the employees and their families, it extends to the entire region, he says. Here he is with more.
It has a tremendous impact on the budgets of our working families, and because of that, it then has a ripple impact on our entire local economy, including our small businesses, which depend on our families being able to pay their bills.
Now, I should add that Republican House Speaker John Boehner has told national media that President Barack Obama can end sequestration by agreeing to cuts.
KPBS reporter Claire Trageser. Now, those sequestration cuts are also hitting senior meal programs in San Diego with even bigger federal cuts than expected. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy tells us tens of thousands of meals could be eliminated if Congress doesn't act.
Thank God for the meals and the people here that help seniors.
James Purcell is one of thousands of low-income seniors in San Diego who rely on the senior community centers for daily food.
I'm here every day for meals.
The center has 10 senior dining facilities in the county. The largest is downtown. Together they serve half of the county's low-income senior population and about 2,100 meals every day of the week. Rudolph Garcia is a veteran and a retired writer and composer. He says the nutrition served here is what's keeping him alive.
I have diabetes, and I feel that this food is doing me a lot of good.
But the center is about 3 months away from having to make cuts. That's because its funding trickles down from the Older Americans Act, which is taking a big hit from sequestration. Paul Downey, Senior Community Center's president and CEO, says the gridlock in Washington is frustrating and dangerous.
I mean, you can't just say, sorry, you don't get food anymore. And that's essentially where Congress has left us, is faced with having to try to scramble to find the money, or else these people aren't going to eat.
Downey says his budget is being cut 10%. That equals more than 90,000 meals at a time when they're seeing an increase in the number of seniors coming through their doors.
We served 7,000 more meals this July than we did last July, and we're on track in August here to do similar kinds of numbers.
One of those new seniors is Kathy Cadenet. She had to quit her job 3 months ago because of medical problems. Now she depends on the center to survive.
I wasn't prepared financially for what's happening in my life right now. And a big part is the food, the nourishment, because of my medical reason.
Downey traveled to Washington to advocate for the seniors earlier this month, but saw little evidence that Congress will find a budget fix by September 30th, the last day of the federal fiscal year. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
A day after being sentenced to 35 years in prison for turning over secret government documents to WikiLeaks, Bradley Manning made a surprise announcement. The Army private says he wants to live as a woman. In a statement to NBC, Manning said he wants to begin hormone treatment as soon as possible, but the Army doesn't provide such treatments. Manning would have to petition for a transfer to a federal prison to receive hormone treatment. A big win for Chula Vista's Eastlake Little Leaguers. The All-Stars there, the team is now one victory away from becoming this year's U.S. champions in the Little League World Series. Eastlake beat Connecticut 6-3 last night in extra innings, advancing to Saturday's championship game. It's not always a happy place on the ball field, and bad behavior on the sidelines at kids' sports games isn't new, but now, park districts and leagues are trying to get parents and other adults to play nice. Martha Irvine of the Associated Press reports.
Most parents in this Chicago suburb try to behave at their kids' games. But there's a new message posted at ball fields for those who don't.
This is a game being played by children. If they win or lose every game of the season, it will not impact what college they attend or their future income potential.
It's a reminder for a generation of sports fans taking parental involvement to the extreme, including these parents at a Pee Wee football game in Texas.
In my opinion, it's just as inappropriate at a professional sporting event, but when you take it into your community and you behave that way at a youth sporting event, it's so much more inappropriate.
Right straight! How does that?
That's okay, don't worry. There are definitely some parents who get a little overzealous, and I think that it does need to be stated.
The sign campaign is part of a growing national trend aimed at reining in parents. Some leagues elsewhere now require parents to sign behavior pledges. Others have silent games to limit interference.
They're all interesting techniques. I think I just want to get back to what I was brought up with as a child, and that's let the kids play.
Go, 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 go.
But will it really work?
These signs are a great reminder and a great tool, but the parents who are yelling and doing all the yelling, they don't really think it's them.
Good job.
Either way, kids just want parents to settle down.
It's kind of annoying because when you're playing, it's just like, and it's kind of stupid to just fight about it because it's just a game.
Allie Kirby says she catches her mom pretending to kick the ball at her soccer games.
Why do you do that?
I don't know, because I want you to kick, so I'm pretending to show you how to kick without yelling at you.
Sometimes kids say clapping is enough. Martha Irvin, Associated Press, Buffalo Grove, Illinois.
Language, lack of insurance, and discomfort with traditional medical settings can be barriers in getting immigrants and refugees to see a doctor. So, City Heights Clinic is partnering with an affordable housing provider to bring the clinic directly to neighbors. Speak City Heights video journalist Brian Myers has the story.
Hollywood Palms is a 94-unit affordable housing property. We speak to our residents about their health care needs. These families may or may not have medical insurance, or because of their culture, they don't feel comfortable perhaps going into a clinic.
What you see here today is a collaborative effort between La Maestra Community Health Centers and City Heights Community Development Corporation, providing dental screening services and bone density services. It's good to do medicine where we can find out what the needs of the healthcare community are.
Some of the residents may feel like they don't want to be public about the health services that they're going to try to access. Some are not aware that certain healthcare services are necessary. Some of the women, they come from a country where those healthcare services are not practiced, and we have thought to move mobile on-site clinics to all of our properties in order that the residents may have a more personal service with them right on site.
With the Affordable Care Act, the impending implementation of it, many healthcare concerns across the country are doing more and more outreach to educate people.
We're already talking with La Maestra about having representatives educate our residents about that ACA bill and seeing how they can be better prepared when that time comes.
The bill goes in effect next year, but what we're doing now is undertaking efforts to educate the community on who qualifies, what their rights are, what coverages there are, what the different health plans are, the types of services, so that people can find a medical home. Healthcare is something that everybody needs to be concerned about, and that people have to have confidence in their healthcare practitioner.
That report produced in partnership with the Media Arts Center, San Diego.
I'm Ray Suarez. On the next News Hour, we continue our series on governing and leadership in a time of gridlock. That's Thursday on the PBS NewsHour.
Might not want to wash the car this weekend. There's a chance for some showers in the forecast. Along the coast, clouds and a chance of rain. By Sunday, a mix of sun and clouds inland with possibility of thunderstorms on Sunday. Warmer temperatures in the mountain areas with a chance of showers. And triple digits expected for the desert with rain all weekend. You can find tonight's stories and download the KPBS app all on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Good night.